Using royal icing transfers can be a great time saver when decorating your cookies. Of course, they are not always an option for all designs, but I utilize them whenever possible. They are also very helpful to make sure that your details and accents look exactly the way you want them before putting them on the cookie, as opposed to piping them directly onto the cookie, especially if you do not have a projector. To get started on making your transfers, you want to have some sort of template that you would like to trace for your design. Tape the template onto a cutting board or other portable flat surface. Next, you will place a piece of wax paper or parchment paper over your template. Make sure to completely flatten it before taping it to the board. I have a separate video that explains the differences between using parchment paper or wax paper that will definitely help you decide which to use, so be sure to check it out when you get a chance. Okay, let's begin. I find that using piping tip number 1, which is the smallest of the circle tips, works best for piping writing onto cookies. Now, all you have to do is pipe your design by tracing the template. For these particular transfers, when I was piping the name Riley, I realized that I had to spread out the letters E and Y a little bit more than my template, otherwise the holes would have closed up. This is a great example of how it was beneficial to make royal icing transfers instead of piping directly onto my cookie. It is also a good idea to make several more transfers than you actually need, because they are quite fragile and you may need backups. As you can see, I had a little casualty here. You will need to let your royal icing transfers completely dry, uncovered at room temperature, before you can remove them from the paper and use them. It is also very important that the transfers are completely dry before placing them onto wet icing to avoid colors bleeding from the transfer into the base icing. Drying time varies depending on the decorations. These writing transfers are very thin and were completely dry within 12 hours. However, some of my more complex transfers that are made of a thicker amount of icing can take anywhere from a couple of days or even up to a week to dry. Now it is time to decorate my cookies. Before I begin, I have everything I need close by, including my dried transfers and a toothpick. Next, I flood my cookie. Next, I will gently grab my royal icing transfer and carefully place it on top of the wet royal icing. I will then use a toothpick to very gently push the royal transfer down into the wet icing. The transfer is very delicate, so you want to be very careful so that you don't break it while you're trying to set it into the icing. Here is one of my finished cookies. It is best if you let your cookies dry uncovered at room temperature overnight or for about 24 hours before packaging or stacking them. This will prevent the icing from getting crushed. Of course, you can always eat them anytime before or after then. And don't worry, the cookies do not get stale being left out during the drying time because the icing keeps the moisture in the cookie. But once they are completely dry, you'll definitely want to put them in an airtight container or other packaging to keep them fresh. If you found this video helpful, please feel free to subscribe and/or check out my other baking and decorating tutorials.